Hello, and Tucker We Trust YouTube fam. How are you doing? Great to see you as always. And we have a very special episode for you this time around. It is a mailbag show. You have questions, we have answers. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Yes, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Dr. Joe Macknick's favorite podcast, It's Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Trash Can Cream Cheese Conrad, also known as Jim, and I'm hanging out with my two regular pals, always here with me, Charlie Chuckwagon Davies. Sometimes he goes by Zimmerman, and Hollywood Harry, also known as Heath Pearce. Guys, I'm ready to do a special episode, mailbag show. People have questions, and we have some answers. But I do want to let everybody know that we have 100 days until the U20 World Cup starts in Indonesia. So that's very exciting as we start to count down to how our younger players are going to play in that.
I was wondering when the 100-day countdown was going to start.
It starts right now. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And then we had a 2-2 game. Leeds was up 2-0 on Manchester United in Chris Armas's first game in charge after Jesse Marsch, who hired him 2 weeks before, got fired. And they blew that lead, and they finished 2-2. But still a positive result. So Chuck, I'll come to you first. Weston McKennie makes his first ever start in the Premier League for Leeds. Him and Tyler Adams going out there, talking their shit, which we love. Love the attitude, love the confidence, love that they are not scared of anybody, but didn't end up getting the result. What do you think about that overall?
I mean, it's a positive result against a strong United side who's really in form right now. So you look at Marcus Rashford and his ability and what he's been able to do as of late. They neutralized him for the most part. I mean, they made it difficult for United to play. I guess it's a wait and see if this is that normal coach bump. You know, after the game, after you let go of a coach, the team plays really well. They feel like a little bit more free. They want to prove themselves. So
it's a new manager. It's a new manager bounce, mate.
We'll see, mate.
But it only lasted for 70 minutes, and then
they still have to play United again, right? So
yes.
I mean, I guess for Weston McKennie in this first appearance, you wouldn't make much of it. I don't think he played particularly poorly, but he definitely did not stand out and be one of those players who was a difference maker. But you're playing against United. You're trying to figure it out. You got new teammates. It wasn't horrible for his first appearance in the Premier League with a new team that's struggling at the moment. So I think you're trying to figure out what that partnership looks like with Tyler Adams, because now he's sitting deeper as opposed to being in that free role, which we've seen with Greg Berhalter.
Okay. Brendan Aronson also made an appearance, Heath Pearce, where he came off the bench. We had all three Americans out there trying to make a difference. I believe, though, after he came on, they scored 2 goals. So that can't feel great for him. And it felt like he was defending quite a bit, especially in and around the box. Ultimately, it just felt like Leeds just dropped off way too much as the pressure got ramped up. And they didn't really have that release valve, which is probably why they brought Aronson on to maybe dribble out of some tough situations to relieve that pressure. Didn't happen. They give up the lead, but still, as we mentioned, a valuable point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're caught up in a 90, like judging Leeds over 90 minutes. And I think Leeds by and large have been pretty good for 60 minutes for a lot of their games this year, 70 minutes. It's their willingness to adapt or settle in or make changes when they're up, when they're down, and all those types of things that's cost them late in games. And so this is another example of that where, you talk about the new manager bounce, which, we joke about, but is generally always a thing because it's a chance for new players. It's a fresh look. It's a little bit less pressure on your shoulders, perhaps for a match or two. But good result. I don't want to overlook that. But again, it's another game that you had 3 points in your hands, and you can't find a way to tactically see it out. Is it too much sitting back? Maybe. Is it too little balance? Maybe. But either way, that's been a major issue for the team throughout the season, and it just didn't look any better in that match. What
was interesting is that Leeds scored in the first minute, and then they got an own goal. It was kind of the lucky things that Jesse Marsch seemed to be lacking when he was in charge. So I guess it was only fair to Jesse in some capacity that they did end up blowing the lead and that he wasn't involved. Everybody, you can't blame Jesse Marsch this time around. So it'll be interesting to see how they play against Manchester United again, because they play them next, this time at Ellen Road. And maybe that will be the difference, because Leeds fans are pretty awesome in terms of their support. Got to see a game there a little bit earlier. All right, let's get into our mailbag. We have a lot of questions, and we're going to start with this one. This one seemed to be a big theme. Pellegrino Matarazzo, 45-year-old American, born in New Jersey to Italian immigrant parents. He has a degree in mathematics from the Ivy League university known as Columbia. He had two brothers that also played college soccer, and he was a two-time All-Ivy League player. He went to Germany in 2000 and played in the lower leagues for 9 years. Now, during that time, he finished his career with Nuremberg's second team and ended up retiring. But during that time with Nuremberg, he ended up getting his coaching badges, and that's where he ended up meeting Julian Nagelsmann, who's now the Bayern Munich coach. Now, Nagelsmann was in charge of Hoffenheim, and Matarazzo eventually moved there to be the head coach of the U17s of their youth academy. And they got along. They had worked together in the coaching school, or they got their licenses together. And in 2018, in January, Nagelsmann promoted him to assistant coach of Hoffenheim's full team. And from there, they did so well. Hoffenheim finished in third. At some point, Nagelsmann obviously made the move to RB Leipzig and then to Bayern Munich. And Matarazzo was so well received in terms of his ideas and ideologies, he ended up going to Stuttgart to be the head coach. He just got fired. He was there in charge for 100 matches at the beginning of this last season, 22-23. He didn't win games for like 9 games, ended up getting sacked or resigned or both, somewhere in the middle. And now he's getting hired again, this time by Hoffenheim as the head coach. And so there was a lot of clamoring around. Why do we talk about him? Why do we not talk about him a lot? You know, I get Marsh's discussed more. This is from Wendell, as he's a former MLS player coach, but that doesn't explain him getting 1,000 times more coverage than Matarazzo, who is most likely the most successful U.S.-born coach, and I barely even heard our podcast mention him. We've talked about him before, and we tried to get him on the show,
Right,
which didn't happen. But what do we think about Matarazzo? Now, he just got hired by Hoffenheim, so the U.S. job is out.
I wouldn't have said MLS. I would say teams should be going after. There's a difference between the national team manager being the guy who's supposed to collect the best players that we have across the globe and win a World Cup versus a manager that has played in high, you know, has finished in high positions, had played in Europe, managed in Europe, coaching a Major League Soccer team and trying to win MLS Cup and win CONCACAF Champions League. There are two big differences. So I think for me, a Pellegrino Matarazzo is someone that, if you're an MLS and you're a bigger club and you're motivated, you have ambition, you go after a manager like him. A Jose Mourinho, a Mauricio Pochettino, a Thomas Tuchel, a manager of that caliber is a U.S. men's national team manager. You want someone who's won championships at the highest level, the elite of elite, to get this young group to understand what is needed to win and being tactically flexible and understanding how to get the most out of players and having that experience so that a young player can't talk to that manager, can't disrespect anyone within that camp. You need to have someone who can hold everyone accountable and that everyone's like, oh, you're right, I won't play or he won't call me in. Mm-hmm. I don't care what the back
and you don't think Matarazzo carries that weight? Doesn't carry that.
I don't.
I'll jump in and say Jesse Marsch gets 1,000 times more, I would say, coverage. One, recently it feels that way because he's in the Premier League, and the Premier League gets 1,000 times more coverage than all the other leagues. And then you have the fact that Jesse, with RB Salzburg, whatever you want to think about the Austrian league, he did get into the Champions League. He did have some good results there. And then he went to RB Leipzig, another team. He actually got some decent results in the Champions League, or was competitive in the Champions League with them against PSGs and the Manchester Cities, and got Christopher Nkunku to start scoring a buttload of goals. But it never really translated into consistent results, and he got let go as well. And I just think there's a little bit more of that going on. I feel like it's less the MLS narrative, even though that's a fun one to tie in, and more just about what he's accomplished in Europe, as opposed to Matarazzo, who's been with Stuttgart, and he helped them get promoted. He did an excellent job of that, and he made them competitive when he was in charge before that little bit of a dip in form, which he decided to step away. But they weren't like lighting it up and getting into Europe and qualifying for Europe in that way. So I think that comes from a little bit of that. He does have a history, though, of developing young players and trusting and playing young players. So I like that facet of him a lot. But Heath, there's another question here from Jackson. What's up, Jackson? Who says, why does Pellegrino Matarazzo not get a lot of recognition stateside? Because I agree with that. He deserves to get more recognition
100%, Jimmy.
than he does. Yeah.
Heath, I'm sure you would say the same thing. Like a manager like him deserves to be talked about. You're in Europe, you're managing in a top league, great.
Yeah.
But don't associate that or make that mistake of saying, well, now they should be in the U.S. men's national team pool. At this point, we want something that's going to take us to the next level, not more of the same.
Yeah.
We need something different that's elite, that's proven, and that's where I would want to go.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, I think about it in the same vein of like when Steve Cherundolo took over as a caretaker, right, for Hanover at a certain point. And I think he was at Nuremberg as well after he was at Hanover. There was not a lot of talk of him because it didn't seem like it was it wasn't big and flashy in the way that Jesse Marsch comes in from the national team. Then he does some good things at Red Bull, and then from there makes a big jump right to Europe, and in a way that feels like out of body experience. Whereas Matarazzo, again, he's been in Europe for a long time. That's where he's done his coaching. So I think he doesn't get the attention that he deserves or the respect that he deserves for what he's done. Right. And I think I think in the same vein as Charlie, where there's this gap, especially right now where we're at with the national team of who we should be going for. I don't think Matarazzo is the wrong guy. I just don't think he's high on my list of who could be available, who should be available, and go after somebody like that. I think Matarazzo could be a good example. Plus, he's 6'6", which is pretty rad. It'd be nice to have somebody super tall.
He's a physical presence. He'd just be so intimidating.
Like one of those people that like occupies a lot of the technical area on a sideline, just that dominating presence when you see him go with that handshake and he's coming down, a little bit of that belittlement to another manager. But yeah, I think no one argues, or at least in this group, none of us are arguing that he deserves a lot more credit, a lot more attention than he's getting. And it's another guy that you're probably like, does he want the U.S. national team job right now? Because I experienced it, and I know, Charlie, you experienced it as well in your career. If he were to come over and say take a MLS job or take the national team job, it's probably a while before he's able to go back and continue on the trajectory that he's on, which is probably the same fear as Jesse Marsch is on. Me, I experienced it as a player, where as soon as I came back, I felt like every 6 months, my time or my relevance or my visibility was getting further and further from the goals that I wanted at a club level as a player in Europe.
No, I as long as Matarazzo doesn't have the dead fish handshake that Sunil Gulati used to have, I think we're all set with regard to that. Charlie knows he doesn't want to laugh because he's really good friends with Sunil, apparently.
Well, you kind of have to when you both have that big of houses and you share a fence line, and like
you share a fence line. I didn't know Charlie had a fence. I just thought he owned pretty much all the.
Well, they're not like that's the thing is it's like one of those like old like wood picket fences that goes across the board, like down miles and miles and down to the edge of the water, where they both share like a beach line, so to speak. Gotcha.
No, I appreciate that clarification. All right, so in anticipation, let me say it like this, of Ted Lasso in the season 3 starting soon, we're going to have somebody from that cast come on the show and talk with us when it's time for them to do their promotional tour, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But I know that Coach Beard, also known as Brendan Hunt, is a huge fan of our podcast. And I know that coordinating producer Chip Hamilton is also a big listener of the podcast. And so I sent them a text like, hey, we're doing a mailbag. Do you have any questions? So Brendan didn't respond. So we gave him a hard time. I was like, what are you on the toilet doing your Wordle and you don't have time to answer, this type of stuff? And he basically wrote back, I'm driving you, dick. So shout out to Coach Beard for calling me a dick. That really made my day. But Chip did respond. And this is the first question. He says, with all the buzz and people talking about Wrexham and going to great lengths to support them, how do you guys feel about this kind of support going to them when you could argue the same enthusiasm isn't shown for the respective local MLS club for many of the same reasons? And he put black soccer fan from Boston who one day hopes to meet Charlie on one of his many large yachts. Shout out to Chip, by the way. Chip's the man.
All right, Chip. I will say this. It's a little bit different because this is one of those shows that all soccer fans, similar to Ted Lasso, can get behind. So it's more sports fans, soccer fans, all coming together to support this initiative in Wrexham, just because they feel like, oh, there's an American owner tied to this soccer project in the heart of football land, England, trying to make it. You love that story. It's like resilience, proving that Americans can do it. You love it. But with MLS, it's so localized. So it's hard to feel that across the country when it's so localized. I think this Apple deal with MLS is trying to broaden that and not make it so localized, so that people, when they can tune into a game, don't necessarily have to be fans of San Jose Earthquakes or Vancouver Whitecaps or Colorado Rapids, and they can live in New England and they still want to be a part of it, so they watch it anyways. That's what we're trying to build here. And I think shows like Wrexham, shows like Ted Lasso help unify the sport and unify the supporter. So I'm all for it. I don't see why someone would be against it. That's what if it's soccer and we're talking about it, why would you be against it? Why would you be hating?
That's the phrase though, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. And so
you got it.
I think it falls into that category for me. And Heath, I don't know if you want to jump in here either, but I'm sure you do. But I just think it's a positive. And if more people are caring about the sport in this way. Oh, the one thing I did want to add is with regard to the Open Cup. What I think really stands out for people that are like drawn into this Wrexham story is part of it is this cup competition, the FA Cup. Maybe they like, wait, there's a cup competition outside of their league. And there has to be some base understanding of what's happening. Why did they replay again against Sheffield United? Like they just, they drew with them last week and now they got to play them again in the same. That's really weird. But people still, oh, cool. You explained it to me. I understand it. Why don't we have that in the U.S.? We do have it in the U.S. It's called the Open Cup. And I don't think we do a very good job of promoting that particular tournament, which I think is very special and has been around for a very long time and deserves so much more love and attention than it gets. But I'm also curious about the Leagues Cup too, now that we're going to tie in the Mexican League and competing with MLS teams in the Mexican League. So I think trying to highlight these cup competitions is going to be a nice way forward because it feels like, at least in the cup competition, and Heath, I'll let you speak after this, is everybody, it feels like, has a chance. You could play USL. You can play USL League 2. You can play NISA. You can play NASL. Whatever acronyms are out there, you have a chance to qualify for the Open Cup. So this is the one competition here in this country where everybody feels like they're a part of it. And that's we can't say that about anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Open Cup in itself is unique because generally, or even cup competitions generally, like when I was any league that I played in, when you played in the cup, you generally played away in the early rounds to a smaller club, which was a big deal for that town or that village or whatever it was. And then you slowly, they have their own underdog story, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the competition, right? It wasn't going to be necessarily a Sacramento, Orlando type of final in it, but it does create a lot of community benefit. It drives revenue to those communities. And also what I like just about the different soccer narratives is it brings in a different type of soccer fan, right? Not everything has to be compared to the best product that exists on the planet, right? We are completely inundated with information all the time. We have access to as much soccer as we could possibly imagine on more networks than you could possibly imagine. However, that doesn't mean that local or community-based football, whether amateur, semi-pro, or professional, should be overlooked or compared as a product, right? I don't know if you guys both remember when Dennis Crowley first launched the Kingston Stockade way back when, and he's been doing these like sort of reports every year of like how many season tickets, like how much volunteer work, and kind of putting out these transparent reports that are more about the community than they are about the quality, right? And I think there's a certain aspect. Yes, there's a Hollywoodization of this Wrexham, and people feel it's unpure or all these things which you could look through a lens and find some things that maybe aren't as they say they are, because it is storytelling. But I still think that for the good of the game or for the growth of the game, it's important.
I think you muted.
Jimmy, we got you muted there.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
maybe Alex.
Well, maybe
your first take, you muted.
Yeah.
After that.
All right. Yeah, maybe I was muted. I want to say, as an aside, Ryan Reynolds started following me on Twitter, and I haven't reached out to him yet. I don't really know. I mean, obviously, welcome to the party. Clearly, has fallen in love with the beautiful game, as he should have a long time ago. But I feel like we got to get him on the show. What do you think? I think that's like a new goal now.
Yeah, facts.
We got to get Fuller Balogun to get on the U.S. men's national team. We got to get Ryan Reynolds on the show.
I'll tell you this. My neighbor here grew up with Rob. I'm not sure how you
McKennie?
Grew up with him, right? And when they went out to England for a cup competition last year, right? They were at some point along the way, they had a big game last year, and all of that, and he got invited, and he's a Philly sports Eagles, 76ers, doesn't care. We've got kids the same age. They go to elementary school. He coaches my daughter's basketball team, and he got invited by Rob to go out to London for a game. And since then has become a massive fan. And I understand it's a unique circumstance of knowing the ownership group and being friends with this guy that he grew up with.
I'd be a fan too if I was going to.
But what I'm saying is he went and enjoyed it, and he is a fan. Again, a very isolated incident, but at least for me, there's something there in the fact that he is now going to enjoy the game differently with his children and that sort of stuff. So I think that's a win.
Jimmy, can we go back though? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. Chip is from Boston.
He is.
He's a black guy.
Yes.
And I haven't been told anything about Ted Lasso. Hey, come check out. We're doing this. We're gonna. Hey, come on the set. Chip, are you for real? Come on, man.
They finished filming, dude. It's done. Like they just have to. It's all post-production now.
All right, next project, Chip. I know.
Next project.
I'm right. Ready.
I'll connect. Listen. We'll just pretend that nobody else is listening, but I'll connect you with Chip, Charlie, so that you guys, we'll all be on. Chip's the best. He is the absolute man. All right, next question. This one's from John on the Twitters, who says, "Who was the best U.S. player that you played with,
oh boy,
besides Jonathan Bornstein?"
Oh God. All right, just go with left backs. What other left backs?
I'll say Eddie Pope. I love playing with Eddie Pope. I always was a big fan of Steve Cherundolo, but these are guys that are like in my area. I got to see the little things that they did to make the game easier, either for me or for themselves, for the whole team. So I really appreciated Eddie Pope and Steve Cherundolo in particular.
That's your GOAT as far as center backs that you've played with?
Eddie Pope for sure.
That's your GOAT. Okay.
Yeah. It's because I looked up to him though when I was younger.
I want to know what Heath's outside back GOAT is.
Yeah, he can't. You're not allowed to say Bornstein apparently.
No, you can't say Bornstein. But
Bornstein's
what would you say as far as GOATs for outside back?
That I played
left back or like Cherundolo's got to be in the mix.
It could be left or right back, but I'm saying, is there an American outside back that you looked up to? Because once you realize, okay, I'm going to be playing left back, that all right, this is the guy I want to watch, and then you got into a camp and you go, oh shit, he's legit.
Honestly, when I think it wasn't necessarily guys that I played with, but it's obviously the ones that you admire. It's a Jeff Agus, it's a Steve Cherundolo type of thing. And again, I've used 100 Cherundolo examples.
Big cat, dude. Tony Sana doesn't get talked about enough. He was very good. But go ahead.
He was very good.
But do you really consider him outside back though?
Was he more of a winger?
Outside
midfielder?
Yeah, I see him as an outside midfielder. But I know he's legit. He was a legit right back in that 2002 World Cup.
Yeah, he was sick.
Yeah. But yeah, it was for me. I'd say the easiest was Cherundolo because I went to University of Portland. He went to University of Portland. The day I got there, Clive Charles told me about this guy that he wanted to give me the same trajectory as him. I'm going to train you, develop you. You're going to go to class. You're going to pass your classes. And when you're ready, I'm going to send you on your way. And then I got the chance to do that. Started my career in Denmark instead of Germany. But then I was like, okay, I want to get to the Bundesliga. That seems like a great place for me to develop. And so my references were always in relation to what he was doing, right? And then the practical advice that he gave me and the way that I would just see him so consistent all the time. Like maybe you guys remember, I don't remember a bad game from Cherundolo. Didn't mean he always played his best game. But even when I played against him in the Bundesliga, he did two things to me that I remember that were mind-blowing. Like one time I was on a near post run, the ball was coming to me. He shoved me straight in the back all the way out of bounds, and it should have been a penalty. But it was a learning lesson for me of like, oh, that ball would have been mine. It would have been my goal. It was a tap in basically. And he full-blown knew exactly how to get his elbow into me when somebody couldn't see me. And that type of stuff. There's those little types of details that I admire because I can still reference them in my head when they would otherwise probably just been moments in games.
How about you, Chuck? Who's the best U.S. player you ever played with?
Well, I'll stick with just strikers because I think for me, when I was growing up, there was one striker that really stood out to me. And once I got to play with him and see him in training, I thought, oh, this guy could be, me and him playing together could be something special. And that's Eddie Johnson. I know it was super brief.
I just saw Eddie post that Dallas Burn videos on his Instagram today. I was like, man,
But I just thought, man, if Eddie Johnson and I got a chance to play together, because he just had. I remember seeing him score that hat trick coming off the bench in one of these World Cup qualifying games. It might have been like 2005,
2005
5?
to 2004.
4.
At the end of 2004. Yeah.
And he did I think he did his backflip celebration maybe. And I just said, I gotta play with this guy. And here we are, Copa America. And I'm thinking, if we could have just grown together with the pace and the speed and the being able to create with each other, stretch opponents, that could have been something special. But I remember just being like, that's legit. But in terms of
Jimmy, you know what I'm hearing about Charlie right now?
What?
Charlie,
the best number 9 of all time.
No, that Charlie obviously would have not been playing in these single striker systems because he keeps on referencing another striker he wants to play with. He's a 4-4-2
since when did we play single striker?
Bro.
We are always 4-4-2.
Hey, welcome to the modern game, man. Sit down on the bench, stay warm. We might need you for that final 30.
Oh gosh, it's the reason why it's changed is because there's not many 9s.
Because there's no more U's, dude. There's no more Chucks.
No, there's no more 9s. You know what I'm saying?
That is true. That is a different game now.
All right, so here is a comment from, and I guess you have to take his username into consideration here when I read this question. It's MLS Hater. He says, is there ever going to be a day when there are no MLS players on the national team? It's getting hard to justify leaving off guys like Taylor Booth and Mihailovic for people like Roldan and Morris. I find this question, very, very leading, obviously, in some ways, but I leaving out what his intention in some capacity. Is that what's best for the game here? To just say, if you play in MLS, you're not good enough for the national.
No.
Is that the message you want to send?
No.
We know the answer, but I'm just trying to lay that out for everybody. I don't think that's the right thing. Plus, MLS is getting better. Plus, as the youth academies continue to evolve and develop, and as that pipeline gets stronger and the coaching gets better and the refereeing and the scouting and all that gets better, there's always going to be room, I think, for MLS players to have earned their spot on the national team, not just handed to them.
But by the way, the U.S. soccer scouts were in Holland either now or last weekend to look at all of our Americans playing in the Dutch league right now. And I don't think you're right, Jimmy. It is a leading question because Taylor Booth wasn't Taylor Booth until he was Taylor Booth. And he's been Taylor Booth for the last 8 weeks, and you can see the quality that he has. You can see the potential that he had before, but he's establishing himself as a first team player right now. And he's absolutely going to be called up. And that doesn't mean because that it should be a free ride in the same way that an MLS player, if they're in peak form and competing and fit into the puzzle, should be called in as well.
Chuck?
Yeah, I would say for a lot of the young players who are coming through MLS or Europe, MLS is just getting better. It's only getting better. You look at the 2002 World Cup, our best finish in a World Cup, there are more than half of the squad is playing in MLS, and that's MLS 1.0. It's only getting better. So
stop taking shots in my era, dude. Come on,
Jimmy. You weren't even 1.0, dude. You weren't even 1.0.
I was
you were playing in the NASL.
Jimmy was MLS beta. They were they were still not quite ready to roll the product out.
He wasn't playing outdoor yet. He was only used to playing indoor.
Shout out to the LA Lasers. Let's go.
No, I think for me, it's the best players go, no matter where you're playing. If yes. Ideally you think where's the best competition? That's in Europe because you can play in Champions League, you can play in English Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, Liga. Great. But you can play in MLS and still be a top player. Those days are gone. If you're a baller, you're a baller. And who knows what your circumstances are? Is it family? Is it, it could be anything. Is it health? You just have to look at who the manager is and look at the performances. If Christian Pulisic was playing in MLS, would you not select him? These things can happen. You never know. So never judge a player based on the league. You got to judge it based on the performances. And then when they do get called up, how do they do? How do they respond? What do they look like in that environment? So for me, the whole MLS is garbage if you play in it. That take is in the trash now.
It's in the trash, Charlie Davies. Okay, so here's one from Jeff. Shout out to Jeff Reed for this question. Would the USSF, so the United States Soccer Federation, and the next sporting director or GM want to hire Tab Ramos or Hugo Perez. I feel like both have extensive knowledge on the landscape in our country and knowing a lot of the player pool. They'd be perfect for the next cycle. Heath, I'll come to you on this. I do want to say that Tab Ramos had a hell of a career as U.S. men's youth technical director and U20 men's national team coach. He got us to 3 consecutive FIFA U20 World Cup quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm.
He led in 2017, 2018, he led the U.S. to consecutive CONCACAF U20 championship titles, which is his first 2 Confederation crowns. He's done a lot. And he also went on to be one of the most accomplished figures in U.S. soccer. He made history at the 2019 U20 World Cup by becoming the first male to participate in 11 FIFA World Championship tournaments as a player or coach.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously his experience is second to none. But it seemed like when he had the opportunity to get a head coaching job in MLS with the Houston Dynamo, he jumped at it. And I wonder about U.S. soccer and just the turnover we're having in general. But let's just start with Tab and Hugo first, Heath.
Yeah, Tab is it's really hard because on one hand we go, oh, well, what have they done at the club level, right? We want to see them consistently and like almost like they're a player to have enough experience to coach our national team. But at the same time, you're like, we use the other side of the coin to say, yeah, but he's in a club environment and the national team is very different. And the way you handle players and manage schedules. And he has that at the youth level, right? He's that successful. He knows the cadences. He knows the ebb and flow of, you have all these players, high intensive environment. You need to get as much as you can done. You're prepping for something long-term, but you've got short-term goals as well. Like that type of stuff is really important. And he brings that to the table. I actually saw him and I regret not going up to him. I don't know if he knows me or not, but I saw him in Qatar, in Doha, and I was just afraid to go up to him because I wanted to ask him some questions about U.S. soccer and all these things and his perspective, and whatever. And I just chickened out. I was in the hotel of a lobby of a hotel, and
who's this fan coming over to talk to me?
Yeah, like I didn't want to have to, like, in the same way that I ran into the U.S. soccer guys at a coffee shop where I had to be like, you guys work for U.S. soccer? And then like 3 questions on, I was like, yeah, I used to play in the national team a little bit. And they were like, and then it all comes together and you're like, this is really uncomfortable and embarrassing. Like, and if it's in a hotel lobby, you're either coming or going, you have something to do. So I just passed on it. So I don't have any insights for you guys. Sorry.
No, I think for a guy like Tab Ramos, he's proven with kids, with youth. He's not proven with adults. And we've seen that with managers in the past when they're very good at the youth level, but they struggle when it comes to managing big profiles, big names, adults. It's different. You can't manage the same way. And if you don't adjust, you struggle. And I think with Tab, he's a fantastic manager when it comes to youth and identifying talent, no doubt. But we all know when it comes to the national team, it's a lot of man management because everyone typically is a baller at their club. That's why you're getting called up. You're one of the best. You're the best, one of the best in the country in your position, no matter where you're playing in the world. You have to be able to manage and reach each player differently and have that understanding. And I think for me, if I see someone who's excelling as a youth coach, great, you can bring them up, but you don't go from excelling in youth national team to all of a sudden you're the U.S. men's national team coach. For me, there's steps, and he didn't have success at Houston. That's a fact, but that's not to say he can't be a good manager coaching the big boys.
Jimmy, let me ask you both this, because I mentioned before that I had a dinner and drinks with Rodolfo Borrell, who's been wanting and linked with a number of jobs in U.S. soccer and Major League Soccer. And for those that don't know, he's the first assistant to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. And he's a great storyteller and tells all of his stories and all these, tactical things. Really, really smart guy. But the thing that he had talked about that they had changed when he went to, I think he was at Liverpool before he was at City, was changing the structure of contracts for the youth coaches so that if you had Tab Ramos, right, and you're like, this guy 18 to 20, there's no one better in the US, right, for these kids, that this was your guy, and you compensated him in the way that you would compensate, because right now the way our coaching structure works in the US especially is like U12 wants to be a U13, U13 wants to be a 14, he wants to be a 14 and an 18 because he can make more money, right? You get rewarded as you go up, as opposed to saying, well, we're going to pay this guy the same as we pay the first team, some of the first team people, because he's a crucial part of our development, and he's so good at it that we don't want him to go after more money or go after a bigger job or a better job, because of that's huge. That's more important than what he's going to do in the first team in terms of development. Right? That's a specialty.
Stick with it.
Player periodization, the growing pains of players within certain windows, and I'm sure Jimmy's going through this coaching, but like that idea of like, oh no, just be the best of that guy, as opposed to, you know, us judging him based on being good on whether or not he can coach the first team or the head national team and something like that.
So what is he looking for a job in the US? What's he doing right now?
Rodolfo Borrell?
Yeah.
No, I think he's always been enamored by the US market. He's good friends with Richie Graham from the Union, and so he was in California on a trip in the offseason. He was meeting with everybody at all the clubs and, you know, doing his networking thing. And so I know there's always been an interest for him to come to the US. But he knew a lot about our world and some of the problems that you have to fix if you want to have better coaching, if you want to develop better players, and so that you don't get all of your best guys or girls end up at U18s to the full team, that even the 12-year-old should be paid the same as the U14s or the 15s, so that you have, you know, age specific. And obviously that requires huge budgets and sponsors and all that kind of stuff. But it was a really unique perspective that I didn't think about, which is like all of our quests, even as a player, is like, you know, go as high as you can and as far as you can. And that's based on, you know, moving upwards, as opposed to, you know.
So you like the consistency idea. And being,
well, if you found what you're great at,
right? Like no need to move up the totem pole. Like if that's,
I mean, maybe like eventually you're going to get that temptation and to go and maybe it is the next move for you. But if you are best at that, it might not be your favorite thing, but it could still be the best thing for the federation or for player development. And then you should be incentivized to want to continue to do that, as opposed to saying, I understand that, but like I make triple by taking a job with the Dynamo, type of thing.
No, you know? No. There's a lot to unpack there, and we're going to unpack it right after our first and only break of In Soccer We Trust. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to In Soccer We Trust. If you just saw that ad on the YouTubes, you know that Champions League is returning to Paramount Plus and CBS Sports on Valentine's Day. So that's very exciting. Our very own Charlie Davies is going to fly over to the UK to be in studio. So make sure you cheer him on while he's doing that. He'll also be part of the Europa League coverage as well. And of course, I want to remind everybody that not only does P Plus and CBS have that, they also have Serie A. And that league is absolutely popping off right now. It looks like Napoli, who have a 13-point lead at the top, are going to do it, but they're known
taking it home
for being bottlers. I'm just saying they're kind of the Tottenham. They're kind of the Tottenham of Italy. So I know it's not like for like, but there's some resemblances there. However, there's a lot of action going on for who's going to qualify in the top four. So you got Inter Milan in 43 points, in second Roma with 40, Lazio 39, Atalanta 38. AC Milan with 38. They are the reigning champions. They are struggling, lost 3 straight. Lots of action happening in Serie A. Make sure that if you want to see this very exciting month, then head over to Paramount Plus and try 1 month free with the promo code Serie A, SERIEA, and go enjoy it on our behalf. And,
hey, Jimmy, real quick on that. And for those of you listening to it in audio, just go, you'll find it across all Paramount Plus world soon, that little clip. But we at Four Soccer Ventures, we get a cut of that before anything goes live in terms of like, hey, are they all active players? We give it one last pass for these things. And when I first heard that Mariah Carey playing, I thought there was a song playing on my computer, and I was like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if that's what that's what this little sting or this little ad was? And then I replayed it again. I was like, this is a Mariah Carey song over Champions League being, coming back, which is an amazing thing. And I was like, yep, no, it's there. This is brilliant.
Okay, so we got a question from Rafa who says, what's your favorite Mariah song? And Charlie,
easy peasy.
What is it?
Heartbreaker, you got the best of me. And you got Jay-Z at the feature. Come on, that's the one.
Okay, mine is this is a banger. no matter any time of year, to be honest. I'm going to say all I want for Christmas is you. I think that is just above and beyond. I know it's very specialized on the holidays, but I love it.
Specialized. You're not listening to that in the summer. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way.
Listen, I've got 2 daughters. We listen to all kinds of crazy crap at all times, dude.
Fantasy's a close number 2 for me, though.
Fantasy's a good shout.
Yeah. Always Be My Baby was a good one for me. That's always stuck with me for a long time. Because you always be baby.
All right.
He's slow dancing.
Oh, dude. Right. I mean, what you know? Like,
all right, back to the questions. This one is from Dan Hirsch. What's up, Dan? He says, okay, the sporting director, GM, and coach of the U.S. men's national team is wide open. Which one of us 3 is going to take each position? Trash Can, Hollywood, or Chuck D? Who takes that job and why? Who gets what?
Well, Jimmy, I mean, first you have to hire me as the sporting director, so I can hire Charlie to be the GM. Charlie's got a great relationships. He's got a great story.
Yeah.
Very relatable. Can take it from all sides, from the players and whatever. Plus, we know Charlie's got 17 other
business stuff. We already dropped for soccer jobs here.
Yeah, and then I got to hire to fire Jimmy Conrad. Like I've got to put him in the position. Let him know that I am.
How long's he got to prove himself?
Jimmy made the rule. He made the rules. He said 1 cycle.
I got 1 cycle, babe. I'm totally cool. I'm totally cool with the 1 cycle.
What if he bombs at Gold Cup and bombs at Copa America? You still give him the whole cycle?
This is the hard thing. Whoever gets this job,
trust the process. I'm getting valuable experience for the guys.
Yeah.
Would it be okay if I asked for more press conferences? I want to do additional press conferences. That's okay. I just want to. Yeah. I think it's pretty much kind of sets itself up in some ways.
I'm happy with the GM role.
I'm happy with the coach role. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So here we go. Done. No problem.
Actually, I'm starting to second guess Charlie as our GM. Okay, he's not always available. He's just a very busy guy. I don't know if he's available.
Well, that's how Brian McBride was doing the job, so he'd be fine.
I think Charlie would like the job, but like, are we doing what's best for U.S. soccer is what I have to ask myself.
I think Chuck, listen, Heath, I think Chuck would be angling for your job. So that's what I'd be the most.
And that's also true. Like Charlie would step into GM and then start to like carve.
He's looking for upwards.
Yeah.
He wants to be the U14 coach. He'd be the U12. Yeah. All right, another question here. If you weren't professional footballers, what would your careers have been? That's from the Miso. The Miso. What's up, dude? Who wants to go first?
Dang. If one of you guys have an answer, go ahead.
I went to school to be a math teacher and to just coach. That's what I probably would have done.
I definitely could see you being a math teacher.
Nerd.
High school coach, math teacher.
Yeah, totally. That's it.
Hit him with that one more time, Heath.
Hey, a nerd.
Totally content with that too. By the way.
Actually, pretty rad. Summer's off.
Great schedule.
But if you're a high school coach, maybe you got some admin duties. Those could end up being some pretty long days.
You get a lot of parents like the Reynas that are trying to like really make it difficult for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be great if you had Gio Reyna in your class at Jimmy's high school, and you had to tell him, "Hey, man, you're gonna be great someday, but you got to do better on your math tests."
So I'm gonna drop you. I'm gonna drop you.
I'm gonna have to drop you from the team. Or you know what? We're gonna have a class vote to see if we're gonna have you stay in the class or not.
Charlie, what's yours?
I'm in the entertainment business, so I'm gonna go with probably a WWE wrestler.
What?
Oh, yeah.
You're not. You got to be big, dude. You're like the
not at all. I can be one.
Thunder Thigh Chuck, dude. That's his.
I think I would have. I tried to be an Olympic wrestler, and then
I appreciate that.
And then from there, there's not many paths. It's MMA or WWE. MMA, I just feel like you're just asking for broken bones and concussions and cauliflower ear. So I'm going to take
WWE,
the WWE
bones and concussions, but no cauliflower ear,
and make a lot more money. And
Charlie the Rock Davies
have the belt. Carry that belt with me all the time. Booker T.
Oh man, yeah. It would be great to have Charlie just in the pro wrestlers onesie though, as his actual I guess Andre the Giant wore his wrestling onesie too when he was in WWF. So,
I think I'm cut from the Bret Michaels, Bret Hart cloth. Yeah, got the big shades.
Hey, on that then, Jimmy, Charlie, for you, what was the thing? The stream obviously lives deep inside of you. So, like, what was the thing? What wrestler did you used to repeat their line or whatever growing up? The Rock
for sure.
Do you smell?
And Macho Man Randy Savage.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. Bret Hart. Yeah, those the figure four. I used to have the finishing moves. Did them all the time. Like on my little brother, who I haven't seen actually in the chat. JB Davies.
Yeah, dude, he's slacking.
He's slacking.
Oh yeah,
but
brother.
typically, that was the go-to. I loved wrestling. I loved it.
I went to WrestleMania 10. That's a fun fact. That was pretty
Did
rad.
you?
The Ultimate
That's
Warrior
sick.
came back from nowhere.
Oh,
Roddy
sick.
Piper, like they had like this whole OJ Simpson type thing, and Roddy Piper showed up. It was the most insane storyline, but I was in 100%. To that, I got to see Mean Gene Oakland do his thing, his little hits from around the stadium, and the way they shot it was really interesting because there wasn't as many people as you thought they did, but when you watch it on TV, you think the whole thing's full, and it's only like 12 compact into this one little shot. And they're just masters of entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, that is the true thing when you see the difficulties of it as we started to see reality TV, and you just see how, one, physical, but two, just how difficult that is. Or if you go down to like Mexico and you watch like, the Lucha Libre down there, it's there is extreme levels. And then you realize as an industry, you think it's just like, oh yeah, these 10 or 20 male and females. And you're like, no, there's hundreds of thousands trying to make it to the top, top tier. There's actually that David Arquette documentary. Have you seen about the wrestling where he wants to go back and become a wrestler? Because he was handed a belt fictitiously, but in a real match. And then fans have hated him for like 20 years because usually you're supposed to be the heel and the heel never wins, especially when you're a celebrity. And he won. And then he's been hated or outcasted by the wrestling community for 20 years. And so he goes back to actually become a wrestler and learn how to wrestle and all these things. So he ends up in all these backyards. Go watch it. I don't remember the name of it, but for me, man, I'm trying to think of
I could see you being a barista, like a really good manager of a Starbucks.
Yeah, like literally top hipster, like number one hipster in the country.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that's Starbucks true. Trusted you to pick all the music for their whole nation.
He lives in Portland. And
wearing a fedora. You guys see me wearing a fedora hat, and just constantly saying
that's a nighttime outfit for you.
Good afternoon, my lady.
Caught on TMZ in West Hollywood at Heath Pearce's hipster lounge.
Honestly, I would say the other route that I was going when I decided to go to soccer was for the class of 2002. I was a top recruit kicker in the nation. And I've got a picture of like my college football recruits and soccer, and there's a vast difference. But it's obviously
you have gone.
Yeah, where'd you go?
So I had a lot of it was kind of East Coast and West Coast, everywhere from like Florida State to your UCLA, USC.
Okay, where would you have
all
gone
the Arizonas?
I honestly, are you a 2-star recruit, 5-star?
No, 5-star. As a kicker, I was number one. I was number one recruit.
Here we go. God, I thought Charlie's the
kicker in the country.
The kicker in the country. And verifiable. No, I mean it was one of those things that in high school you don't like. The only reason I was that is because I was going to these college combines where they basically make you hit from the 40 and the 50 in the middle, the hashes, no like warm ups, and they go 15. You get 5 of each, and that's how they start to. And then you go through all like the bench press, the vertical jump, and all those things that they measure you on. And that was all you could do because in high school, like I could kick off into the end zone, and then you'd never get to kick a ball ever, so I was playing football and soccer, and then I had the residency program where I had to give all that up, and so it was only me and Eddie Johnson would just go into the like big indoor place at IMG and practice football together. That was it. With only 2.
That's unbelievable. What a story. I love that. There's a lot to get into. I wish we had more time here on the mailbag episode. We're going to get to a couple more questions and then send everybody on their way. And hopefully you have a great weekend. A lot of big games coming up to watch as well. Here's a good one from Blair. Chuck, I'll come to you. Would you rather win Copa America in 2024 or make the semifinals at the 2026 World Cup?
Semifinal. That's the easiest thing in the world.
Jimmy.
Come on now. Come on. Give me that semifinal.
Yeah.
Come on, Cletus.
I mean, winning the Copa America would be quite the achievement if Brazil
would,
or Argentina.
but nobody in the U.S.
I get it.
Nobody in the U.S. would really recognize. To be
Okay.
fair, people
That's
still
fair.
talk about our Confed Cup final loss. Like people like, but you know what the funny thing is? It's mostly foreigners when I say. When I talk to them and like, yeah, Confederations Cup 09, they're like, oh yeah, that was when you beat Spain because Spain was on that run and obviously the Euros and end up winning the World Cup and it fits in between. So people remember that. But I think the Copa America, not to underplay the US fan because we have so many that do get it, but from an actual impact standpoint, a semi in a World Cup would have, I think be more impactful.
Wait, so
I guess that wasn't really the question. But
is it get to a semi and lose or just get to a semi? And you could
get to a semi and I assume lose. I'm just gonna assume.
Well,
that.
so then the question would be get to a final, Charlie. What do you? I mean,
yeah,
like you win the 2024 Copa America here in the States.
Yeah,
which I agree with you wouldn't have the same weight as the World Cup, which is gonna have.
I think it'd be more special if you won the Copa America in South America.
Yes, I agree with you on that because that would be a wake up call to everybody down there that the U.S. can't mess with them anymore.
Yeah, they'd just be like, okay. Chile won it twice. We don't care.
Yeah, but no, you're.
I was in Chile for that, and they did
you're
care.
Always taking the
Chileans cared.
The biggest World Cup in history. You're getting to the semifinals. You're taking that all day.
Yeah,
all day over a Copa America.
It's 106 teams, Jimmy, to get to a semifinal.
That if we got to a Copa America final and won it, soccer fans, yeah, they'd be like, "Woo!" But and then it would die quick, gone. You get to a semifinals and a World Cup in our country, the biggest one ever.
Right.
Oh, you're turning heads all over the world. Everyone, give it to me. Oh, that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in Qatar. We got out of the group stage, and you just knew that gave us 3 or 4, 5 more days before that round of 16 game against the Dutch. That we got to talk about the team, be excited about the team, get more people on board to jump on the bandwagon or whatever it is, and be like, let's be a part of this. Had they won and beat the Dutch, I mean, it just gives us 4 or 5 more valuable days for everybody just to really feel what that's like. And I think that's a little bit of the taste of what Wrexham is providing for some people, that they just get to kind of jump on this bandwagon and be a part of it and as they try to understand it. And I just think that those guys are doing a good job just to tie that back in. Also, Chip is watching the show right now. And Chip said, "You Cannot Kill David Arquette" is the title of the documentary that he was referencing.
Yes.
So shout out to Chip for the real-time research for us.
I wonder what belt it was. If it was like the Intercontinental belt, like it was a lower belt.
It was when he first got to like, it's worth watching. It's pretty intense and kind of sad, but like like he gets to Hollywood, gets a big deal, gets on to wrestling, ends up winning, and apparently that's like when the celebrities come on, they're supposed to ultimately lose no matter how far they go.
Mike Tyson, I remember he got on there.
And he wins, and then the whole community's like, this is a disrespect to whatever, and he was like, he didn't have anything to do with it, and now he's gone back to like do it to get it right. So he's like, landing on glass and like backyard brawls and like in the South, and like
sounds like the wrestler.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's cool. So, but it's also intense, but like and sad, but it's good. You go watch it.
Okay, let's make.
I get $1 for every time any of you stream it. So
yeah, wait. Did Chip say anything about me? By the way, if he's listening, come on, Chip.
Chip says he won the WCW title. Chuck, that's what he won, and I will connect you both. So you're good. You're good on that. Okay, so 2 more questions. This one is Sergino Dest. What do you think is his next ideal move? And before I throw it to either one of you, it's interesting for me that he went to AC Milan, who have a wingback in Teo Hernandez, who just bombs forward with reckless abandon. And maybe they thought he could be someone that could do it on the other side and be an equal threat to that. I think that probably throws off the balance of the team, but whatever. He didn't really work for whatever reason under Stefano Pioli and at Milan, so they're going to let him go. At Barcelona, another team known for having attacking wingbacks, wanting their outside backs to join in the attack. Dani Alves, Jordi Alba, 2 great recent examples during their peaks of their success. I thought he did okay when he was there, but didn't really seem to fit into Xavi's plans. I don't know if he should go back to Ajax. I know we talked about this a little bit, but I feel like he's got to find a situation where he's the guy. Like I don't want him to compete with another attacking outside back on the other side of the field. Like he's got to be the one that really generates that width. We threw out Marseille. Chuck Booth, one of our writers for CBS Sports, wrote an article saying that Marseille would be a good fit under manager Igor Tudor, which I agree. I don't know if he wants to go there. I don't know. What do you guys think, Chuck? I'll start with you. Sergino Dest's ideal move.
So I think he needs to take a step back from the big clubs. Ajax right now is third in the Eredivisie. I mean, they're 3 points out, so things can turn, but the club is going in the wrong direction. If I'm him, if I'm in his shoes, I don't want to go back to the league that I was
started.
Yeah, where I started. I want to keep moving forward, and I think going back to Ajax would feel like a big step back because it really feel like a failure. But he also went from Ajax to Barca. That's a massive jump. And things can change quickly when it comes to a new manager. So he goes to Milan, doesn't work. He's going to go back to Barca, and now you got to look for your next club, your next step. If I'm him, I'm looking at clubs who will play in the Champions League, but not clubs who are going to be, set with that right back spot. So a Dortmund, a Union Berlin are in the Bundesliga would be two good spots, even at RB Leipzig. You look in Serie A, if Lazio, Roma, Atalanta, maybe because Milan is on the way down. So I would find it probably hard to go to Serie A if it didn't work out in Milan. The respect across the league is probably like, oh, he's not ready yet. And that's kind of probably what's been talked about. So I think the Bundesliga would be a good spot for him, and in particular, RB Leipzig or Dortmund, even at Union Berlin because they're playing so well. But Dortmund and Leipzig, just because of their track record, would probably be a good step for him.
Okay, Heath. So I just want to say, just stats-wise, he started twice this season in Serie A for Milan. 8 overall appearances, so come off the bench 6 times, 328 minutes, no goals, no assists. Not really helping or contributing in that side of the ball. We've seen him make a couple mistakes defensively. He's not really, obviously winning people over. Then when I look at Ajax, even if he went back there, they have a 20-year-old playing his spot, Devin Wrench, who's excellent. So I don't even know if he would have room for him or why you'd go back. Even though Sergino is only 22, you already have and Ajax is amazing at this. Whatever they lose, they just got that youth academy that's just going to fill those voids pretty quickly.
Monaco's another good spot if you're looking
Monaco
in France. Monaco, they play their youth. If they were to sign him, then he's
only 22. We talk about him a lot, but
get him some minutes. And the French league is a very difficult league because the outside backs get a lot of 1v1. That league is up and down, and a lot of athletically gifted players in the French league. So I feel like that would be a good step for him as well.
Okay. Heath? Yeah, I mean, I like your top 3, 4, and I mean it's the kind of things that I was thinking about for Conrad, right? Where I thought Marseille was a great landing point. When I think about Lyon, when I think about, I feel like because they're a mix of like 1, high pressure environments, 2, they're gonna have he needs to be in a club that has quality and that has the ball, right? He's not gonna. I do think he needs to be in an environment where he's got to defend. But obviously, he's going to be at his best when a team that has the ball and his starting points are higher up the field, high and wide, and he's able to be in more dangerous positions and show his strengths through that. So that's where I see him. And then I like Leipzig, I like Dortmund. I even think he's good enough to be at a Bayern in terms of their roster and what he can offer to their style of play. But obviously, there's plenty of quality there as well.
You're not going to play with those minutes.
Yeah.
All right, that was our last question, boys.
Wait, there's one more. Under 17 World Cup qualifying for the World Cup in Peru this year.
Final thoughts.
Starts next week.
Okay.
Adrian Gill. Everyone's talking about him at Barca. I'm really interested to see what he looks like for this young group, and if this is a player that's going to stand out and allow the U.S. to win the championship, the CONCACAF championship.
Okay, yeah, he's from Denver, Colorado. So we'll see if Adrian Gill can run the show there. Heath, any final thoughts for you before we send everybody on their way?
No, I love doing the mailbag. So hopefully we can continue to do them through these next months and stuff because they're fun.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun. And that was fun. I enjoy doing that with you guys. And I enjoy everybody that asks questions.
Yes, keep them coming.
As always. So keep those coming. Drop us a follow on the Twitter at ISWTpod. So on behalf of producer Dest, producer Alex, Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies, Hollywood Heath Pearce, and Jimmy Trash Can Cream Cheese, Conrad, also known as Jim. We will thank you so much for listening and watching to In Soccer We Trust. We'll see you next time. Have a good weekend. Later.